Hey guys, welcome to my first drive video on the brand new BMW X5M Competition. Before we start this video, I want to say a massive thanks and shout out to the Berry BMW group and Tony Lewis for organising this gorgeous Marina Bay Blue X5M competition. For those of you that might have missed it, I did do a walk around video on this exact car, going into a lot more detail of the spec, etc. at Berry BMW at their new dealership down at Thames Ditton about a month ago. So I'll put a link to that video up here. I go into a lot of detail, we look at all of the options, and we look at a very cool removable parcel shelf in the boot that I got very excited about. Today is going to be solely based on driving this car, driving dynamics, and seeing what this car is all about on a typical British B road. A quick reminder about the X5M competition. Here in the UK, we only get the competition model, so we don't get the standard X5M. This car shares a lot of its running gear with the brilliant and one of my favourite cars on the planet, M5 Competition. So we're talking about a 4.4 litre V8 twin turbo underneath the bonnet here, producing 625 horsepower and 750 newton meters of torque. That gives this 2.3 tonne car a claimed 0 to 62 figure of 3.8 seconds. We'll be testing that a bit later because I've got my race box with me. We'll head over and find some private land and see if we can beat that claimed figure. Recommended retail for a base spec X5M competition here in the UK is about £110,000. This one has a few toys thrown at it, but not too many, and we're talking a retail price on the road of £116,000. Again, if you want to see the exact spec of this car, go and check out my previous video on it where I go into a lot more detail. I think that's enough talking outside the car. Let's get in it and head off to one of my favourite roads. In this first drive, I want to ask myself three questions. Number one, is this better and more complete than the BMW X3M competition, which I found entertaining, but I also found the ride to almost be unacceptable for a car that's, you know, built in this day and age. My second question is, being that this shares pretty much everything running gear wise with the M5 competition, is it anywhere near as good as that car? Because I absolutely love it, and I'm gonna struggle to understand how this could be anywhere near as good because it's heavier and it's jacked up a long way. But let's just see if it has a fighting chance against that car. And my third and final question is, what's it like compared to the Audi RS Q8? Because many of you know I really like that car. It's another massive SUV that also weighs 2.3 tons and a car that I really should not be that excited by, but I have enjoyed my experience with the Audi RS Q8. So let's see if we can answer those three questions in this drive today. First question, is it any better as an all-round package than the X3M competition? The main thing I'm really looking for is, what's its ride like when you knock it back into comfort, which I'm in at the moment, and everything's in a relaxed mode. So it's in a SUV mode. This is the mode that the majority of people are probably going to spend most of their time in when they've got one of these, just to cruise about in. This is what you really want to work if you're going to use this car as your family bus that you can take out on the weekend for a blast. And I have to say that the ride quality is a lot better than the X3M competition, miles better. Like you could probably see now, the ride comfort is just lovely. We've got staggered wheels, so we've got 21 inch on the front and 22 inch on the rear. That's standard fit. Massive 315 section rears. I think that's about the same size as a GT3 RS rear tyre, and really big 295 section front, so loads of physical grip, especially as this car has got the brilliant Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres. This car would just be brilliant come rain or shine. It's not what I would call 7 Series like, and it's certainly a lot stiffer than a normal, let's say, X5 30D, but it does a reasonably good job, and it's definitely something that you could live with. I think it is helped, once again, like the M5 Competition, by these brilliant seats that I just love so much, and you're probably sick of me talking about them, but I just have to say they're fantastic. I've currently got my seat ventilation on. They just fit me so well. They're so comfortable and they're so supportive. So these probably help the ride a fraction, but that's not taking anything away from the actual suspension setup. But I have to say, if you're in anything but comfort, it does become overly stiff here for the UK. Sports, Sport Plus, forget it. It's just jarring. So even my M1 and M2 modes are both set up with suspension in comfort. Talking of M modes, I've just selected my M1 mode, so I'm now in manual using the paddles. I've got a much more aggressive throttle pickup, if you like, a bit more exhaust sound. The chassis is still the same as we just talked about. We're coming into a really nice bit of road, so let's talk about my second question. What's it like compared to the brilliant M5 Competition? Well, once again, it defies its physics. It doesn't feel much slower in a straight line, and to be fair, on the road it's just so big and so heavy that I really don't want to push it to anywhere near its limits. But what I can say is its limits just seem a long way away. They're just so impressive. How a manufacturer's building cars this big that handles so well. This car stays completely flat through the turns. I mean, I know it's all electronic wizardry doing that, but it's just so impressive, and it really does inspire you with confidence. And I've talked about this before. I've been down here in the M8 or Audi's R8 before, and in fact I reckon I could get down this road quicker in this car, mostly down to the fact that I can see much further down the road. I can see through the corners and stuff, and although it's just as wide, it certainly doesn't feel it because I'm sitting up a bit higher. It messes with your mind, this car. It really does. It's so impressive. But is it as impressive as the M5 Competition? Well, no, of course it's not. It's physically impossible. We're sitting, I don't know, 6-8 inches higher. We're carrying around 250, 300 kilos more weight. It's never going to be as good as the M5 Competition. But how can I be hustling a 2.3 ton car like this down one of my favourite roads? I shouldn't really be having fun in this car. Just, it kind of does defy physics. And I know I've said that about a few cars, but what manufacturers are doing, the amount of money and R&D they must do with cars like this, is just ridiculous. I wish we didn't have cars like this in the world. I wish we just had fast estates and saloon cars, because there's no need for overweight super SUVs. But it's just ridiculous. On to my final point. Is it any better than the RSQ8? How does it compare? I have to say they're very, very different cars. The RSQ8 gives you an incredible ride quality. It really does. That this car can't quite match, but typically this feels more sporty and is actually more of the driver's tool, if you like. I mean, through here it's just so accurate. You know, I'm not saying there's steering feel, because there isn't really, but it just feels really accurate. Even if you're on the motorway at 70 miles an hour and changing lanes, it just feels so pin sharp. And BMW M, if you like, whereas the RSQ8 isn't quite as sharp as that. You can feel its mass more of the time, but that's taking nothing away from the RSQ8, because as a cruiser it's incredible. But then when we get into the cabin, and I don't care what people say, as nice as the Audi cabins are to look at and the wow factor, they just don't operate as well as BMW's operating system 7. Everything in here is just perfect. There's buttons where I want there to be buttons. There's touchscreen if I want touchscreen. There's gesture control if I want gesture control, which I don't. But the fit and finish in here is amazing, it really is. And that extends into the back as well. I think the rear seats are a bit better than the ones in the RSQ8. So I think both of those cars are very good. The RSQ8 is arguably a better cruiser, definitely more efficient on the long run. But this car, when you're shooting it down your favorite road like I've been doing today, it really does come into its own and show you and display its BMW M DNA, which is so important to me, and I'm sure anyone that's looking for one of these cars. This car has a claimed 0 to 62 figure of 3.8 seconds, which is actually identical to what Audi claim the RSQ8 to have. Earlier on, I strapped my race box onto this car, found some private land, and actually timed a couple of launch control runs to see how close we could get to that. So let's cut to me doing that, and I'll join you in a second. I've got my race box ready to launch. Everything is turned off. Launch control ready. Here we go. Whew. Okay, so 3.98 we managed on that run. That's pretty respectable. Okay, here we go again. This time I'm going to put it in manual, so everything's still switched off. I'm going to use the gears and shift up to second, maybe a little bit earlier than the car does. So let's see if that makes any difference. Here we go. Launch control active. Wow. Well, it did make a difference. 3.67, and it's in the green. So, wow, that was impressive. Okay, here we go, final attempt, launch control. Gonna leave it in manual. Here we go, launch control active, and off we go. Wow, 3.6. 3.6, and it's in the green, so pretty much level slope. I think I can see 0.2% of a gradient, so we're talking level playing field. 3.6, I mean, that is GPS verified, and that is exactly 0.2 of a second quicker than BMW's claim, so massively impressive. 3.6 seconds to 62 miles an hour in a 2.3 ton SUV. What is the world coming to? I'm sure you agree that was mighty impressive. 3.6 seconds GPS, real time. So impressive for something so big. Before we end this video, I'm just going to talk about things that I love about this car and things that I'm not so keen with. So let's start with the things that I love about this car. The interior, we've already talked about that. Stunning, beautiful, comfortable, practical, usable. That parcel shelf in the boot, if you haven't seen my original video, check it out because it's such an impressive bit of kit. Driving position, fantastic, really, really good. I will mention it because I talk about it in every single video, but I'm 6'4" and I tend not to fit perfectly in many cars because I am very tall, but in here, loads of headroom. I'm sitting nice and low. Everything's just so adjustable. It's such a comfortable car to sit in, not just in terms of the seats and the comfort they provide, but the actual driving position itself. This car will fit all shapes and sizes. The seats, yep, we've talked about the seats, brilliant, can't be any better really. I think they are the best in the business, absolutely love them. And the tech, again, we've touched upon the tech, all of the operating system 7, everything that's in here is just absolutely fantastic, really is, and I'm not left from wanting more. Things I'm not so convinced about with this car, well, the ride quality still definitely could be better. It's not bad, as we talked about, it's nothing like the X5M Competition, but it still could be a little bit softer in comfort, could offer you a little bit more ride comfort. Other things are fuel consumption. This car with that engine, or this weight with that engine, not a good combination when you want fuel consumption. And I know someone that's maybe got 115,000 pounds is not going to be too concerned about that, but still I need to talk about it because it really is not the biggest plus point. The most I've seen is 21 miles to the gallon on the way down here at 70 miles an hour on the motorway for about an hour. That was the best I saw, was 21. The worst I've seen, and in fact the odometer's showing since I've had this car for sort of 24 hours, it's showing me 16.5 mpg, and I've probably been averaging around 15 today during the test, so really nothing to write home about. But what do you expect? 2.3 tons, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. The other slight negatives are lack of steering feel. I suppose you're not really going to expect it to be Lotus-like in here, are you? But you do feel a little bit disconnected. Not quite as much as you do in the RSQ8, but you still do feel disconnected. But you're going to expect that in something that's so big, so heavy, and so fast. And I really think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this rim is just a bit too thick still. Why do they continue making thick rim wheels? I wish they would understand. I mean, they do understand. BMW M know that this is not the way to go, but they're just trying to please people that genuinely think thick rim wheels are sporty, and they're really, really not. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first drive video. I know it took a little bit longer than I first predicted, but obviously this is Berry BMW's demo car and they had to run it in before I could take it out for a bit of a blast. So touching on that, massive thanks to Berry BMW and Tony Lewis for organising this car and this drive today. I will see you very soon at the next video. Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and leave any comments and questions below. Cheers.